Hey everyone, welcome to yet another episode, 3 more, let's talk about them. Baby God is an HBO documentary film about a doctor who in the 1940s all the way up to like the late 90s was inseminating women with his own sperm. Yeah, pretty gross. The problem is that at the time, this wasn't actually a crime. He was never charged with anything, and as we learn in the film, it was kind of common practice for fertility doctors to do this. They would use student samples when they were in medical school, so that practice just somewhat kept with them throughout their entire careers. And these doctors didn't realize that in the future, there'd be something like 23andMe that would not only be a at-home DNA kit, but would also be able to link all of these children together. And that's how this film begins, in present day with these adults finding out that the person they've called their father throughout all of these years is not actually their dad. The movie has a couple hurdles to overcome, but the biggest one is that the doctor that fathered all of these children is dead. So we never really get his, I guess his side of the story is inconsequential, but we never hear from him. All we hear from is these adults that find out that they're all related. And we see them meeting each other even though they didn't actually shoot the reunion because that's somewhat creepy for the documentary filmmakers to do. And we see some of the adults going to their parents, their mother and father, and saying, oh, by the way, this is what I found out, that I am not actually your son or daughter. But for a subject that is so interesting, this movie's incredibly boring, and it is stretching as hard as it possibly can to get to feature length. And it barely gets there. It stays on shots way past time that it should have cut out of them. Something this interesting shouldn't be this dull, especially when the same thing happened in my state of Indiana relatively recently. And now in this day and age, that is a crime. So it would have a true crime element to it that Baby God didn't have because no crime was committed. Creepy? Yes. Immoral? Yes. Unethical? Absolutely. But not a crime. At least at the time. So yeah, very dull, uneventful, somewhat boring. The House That Jack Built is a Lars von Trier movie. If you don't know what that means, don't watch this movie. Stars Matt Dillon as Jack, a serial killer who is narrating 5 of his kills to an unknown entity. And he sees these 5 kills as kind of his landmark kills. So you see him escalate throughout time. And then the third act of this movie gets real weird because Lars von Trier's got a Lars von Trier. I like Matt Dillon's performance. It's probably his best performance in 5-10 years. I like the movie as a whole. I like how it's structured, even though it's weird at points throughout its running time. It's always compelling, but the third act is where it will make or break for you. If you buy into what he does in the third act, it's going to be a transcendent movie watching experience. If it seems weird and off-putting to you, you're going to remember this film as being weird and off-putting. And for me, this movie is weird and off-putting. It's also very long. It takes its sweet time getting to where it's going. It's unmemorable as far as shooting style is concerned. The performance from Matt Dillon is good, but this movie is maybe too Lars von Trier-y for me. I liked it, although I don't know what I saw, so I didn't like it. Or I did like it. I'm undecided on The House That Jack Built. The Goldfinch is unbelievably boring. It is about a boy whose mother dies in a terrorist attack in an art museum. During the attack, he steals a painting called The Goldfinch, and then he goes to live with some antique restoration people. This movie reminded me a lot of Boyhood in that...
So what happens in the movie? And I was like, Not much.
There's not really a running storyline per se. It's more just this boy's life as he grows up to become a man, and how this painting haunts him throughout his life. The most interesting aspect of the movie takes place off screen, and I was not shocked to find out that this movie was based on a book, because it feels like the connective tissue of the film is gone. It's like they picked 5 or 6 points in this guy's life and did those scenes in the movie and left everything else out. Because there's no feeling here. The only thing I felt was incredibly bored, which is a shame because it looks incredible because it was shot by Roger Deakins. The movie always looks amazing. There's just nothing happening here. And that is it for this episode. Have you seen any of these movies? I will see you in comments and on the next episode of 366 2020. Thanks for watching.